What we saw in Burundi on the day of the election reflected, for the most part, the will of those who actually came to vote. I come from Kavari. Kavari is not very far from the Congo. My mother came from an area called Busanza at the border of Congo. As a matter of fact, their cows and their farms and what have you were all in the Congo. If you were sick, you'd have to go to a Congolese missionary hospital called Rwankuba. So there are some precedents that this country, if it actually gets an opportunity for getting a leader that can do some kind of good governance, it could actually turn around to be an incredibly beautiful country to be associated with. There's no question about it. But when you go through the process that came before, this time around the international community seems to be focused like a laser beam on Burundian President Pierre Nkurunziza. There's no question about it. And there are some problems. But I think what the international community ought to be doing here is not to use a separate standard, or one standard for Burundi, another standard for Ethiopian elections, and another standard for the election in Sudan. We should simply have one standard saying, in order for an election to be accepted by the people that are participating in it, the regional, continental, and international community, it must be an election that reflects the will of the people no matter where.
We tabled to them evidence about Shaka Ssali's own statements about Museveni in Uganda, both in public media and in private conversation. Secondly, we tabled for them the various interviews over the years, including the one he conducted with Kigezi in America last year, the one he conducted with Honorable Mama Mbabazi last year, and the one he conducted with Renegade General David Sejusa last year.
Clause has not been amended because from what I know, it was supposed to have been taken care of under the government of Michael Sata, who apparently is now the late. I think it is something that needs to be amended. They probably need to come in line with the American Constitution, whereby if a vice president, for example, takes over from an incumbent president who just died or is incapacitated, you complete that term, but that term remains that of your predecessor, and then you go on to run for the next. I don't think Zambia should really continue doing that. I mean, the people are very disciplined, really, and very humble. But let's face it, Zambia is one of the poorest countries in the world. They cannot afford it economically. What they need is to change that clause, amend it, frankly, and just come in line with most presidential standards internationally. You need term limits because you want to avoid the possibility of abuse of power. Now, the thing is, there's no question that since 1986, he has done certain things. He has, people will argue that he has restored at least a sense of peace, stability in Uganda. He has built some roads here and there. The economy has grown, at least statistically, even though, to be very honest with you, when you go to Uganda, you don't see those statistics reflected in the stomachs of people. I have also talked to some people, and there are many people, Paul. They have actually told me, in their words, not mine, that as far as they are concerned, perhaps the most important accomplishment that the Museveni government has achieved in the last 30 years is the institutionalization of corruption and impunity. This is a man, by the way, if you really can go to Uganda and look even at the crowds and what have you, yeah, there is a little bit of evidence to suggest that he is liked by quote-unquote ordinary people. In fact, there are some people who have suggested that President Museveni, contrary to what you just said, suffers from a disease, which is having a pathological fear of fair competition.